Over the past 5 years, BD Collective has been on a journey. This is our way of telling that story. The story isn't finished, but this part of the journey is coming to an end, and we want to share it with you. Barking and Dagenham can be a great place to live, but it is also one of the most deprived boroughs in London, with maybe half of the children living in poverty. Both the number of those living on low pay and infant mortality rates are twice as high as in the richest borough. Nearly a fifth of residents live in temporary accommodation, and ill health is also worse here, where on average women live just under 5 years less than a woman in Westminster, and for men the gap is more than 5 years. In an attempt to help Barking and Dagenham's social sector tackle these overwhelming issues, BD Collective was born. In 2019, when the voluntary community sector infrastructure came up for renewal, the opportunity arose for 10 community leaders already working in the social sector to come forward and bid for a new model, one that advocated for more collaboration and trust. BD Collective's values were inspired by the Civil Society Futures report that came out in 2019. The report suggested that the power of civil society had diminished, and the social sector was both the source of the problem and the potential remedy. The inquiry proposed 4 values, in place of recommendations which the BD Collective adopted as their own: power sharing, accountability, connection, and trust. In this clip, Julia Unwin, chair of the report, shares with BD Collective the importance of shifting power and how the work being done by BD Collective is valuable.
At its heart, everything that all of you do in this room is about bringing people together so that they do have power. And actually the history of the voluntary sector and the history of civil society is all to do with people who felt they were not allowed power coming together. That's what the trade union movement is. That's what every residents' association. That's what parent-teacher associations are. It's people who feel that on their own they haven't power, but together we have. And I think what you're modelling here in Barking and Dagenham is an incredibly clever and, I think, effective way of showing that there is real power in communities. Because others, the people who think they're there in power, couldn't function unless you were doing what you were doing.
With the values of shared power, accountability, connection and trust underpinning any action taking place, the BD Collective set out to strengthen the social sector in the borough, create networks of social sector organisations increasing their effectiveness through collaboration, reduce unnecessary competition by sharing resources and information, for example buildings, ensure social sector operates as an equal partner in place-based strategic decision making, and facilitate social sector organisations to secure funding through consortia. In 2020, a year after it began, 150 organisations were signed up to the newsletter, and 70 attended the first annual review. Networks began to form, such as the Food Network, the Reimagining Health and Social Care Network, and the Children and Young People's Network. They were a way of practicing the foundational values with an aim to shift the status quo and begin a new way of operating for the civil society in Barking and Dagenham. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the ongoing work of BD Collective was impacted, but new opportunities emerged despite the challenges. Here is Councillor Ashraf speaking about the BD CAN initiative at our Together We Lead event.
So in 2018, Barking and Dagenham Council developed a long-term vision for how we would work with and support the voluntary community and social enterprise sector. We took a chance and a new way of working that would share power between the council and the community. In order for us to tackle local issues in collaboration rather than in competition. 10 social sector leaders in the borough came together to establish the BD Collective, a network of networks, including the youth, social care, mental health, food, and many more. And most importantly, a network adopting the values of connection, trust, and shared accountability.
Our end of year 2 learning report stated, by one measure, the work of the collective in its first 2 years is complete. It has disrupted the social sector and created new and enduring relationships and opportunities. There is momentum behind the change process. By another measure, the first 2 years has created a foundation for wider change. Post-lockdown, with people returning to meeting in person, the established networks felt unwieldy. They were large, but with little active participation from many of the members, which led to very little change. Therefore, BD Collective started to facilitate the formation of smaller, more flexible networks. Gerald Deville de Goyer, CEO of BD Giving, came to realise that networks are basically our currency, and it's the only thing that really matters. When I talk about currency, I don't mean in economic terms, but the relationships are really what makes the sector work and thrive. These new networks then, a sports network, a women's network, a supporting migrants network among them, were more independent, with much of their communication happening via WhatsApp. During this season, the work of BD Collective broadened as it explored its aims. BD Collective became a conduit for conversations with funders. It was easy to link them with local organisations, and when new funding opportunities were announced, bringing relevant organisations together. This included a focus on mental health, health inequalities, cost of living crisis, and early help for families. Our localities work was aimed at connecting civil society via location and aimed to increase the communication and relationship between different local organisations in that locality, making them more successful in delivering to the local community. Sam Miller, Artistic Director of Green Shoot Arts, reflects on what it would take for civil society to be successful.
For civil society to take the lead on addressing the pressing issues within our communities, it's going to take a concerted, unified effort for every voluntary, community and social enterprise organisation in the borough to work together, recognising that the problems that we face are shared problems, regardless of our background, our level of education, nor the specific focus of our organisation. It'll only work with this unified approach, where instead of thinking like lots of separate organisations who are competing for funding and not really sharing information and so on like that, we instead consider ourselves to be different parts of one entity with shared goals and shared values.
The Together We Lead initiative in Year 4 was born out of our desire to bring a challenge and inspiration to social sector partners and funders. These events, attended by cross-sector partners from across the borough and beyond, tapped into both external and internal wisdom, exploring how civil society residents, statutory agencies and funders could partner more effectively. BD Collective was initially given a 3-year contract, which was extended to 5 years. BD Collective shall soon become a community benefit society and will continue the work that it started. Matt Scott, one of the leaders of BD Collective, CEO of Thames Life, reflects, "We need to dismantle the winner-takes-all system, hence the value of coalitions. If commissioners place greater social value on consortiums and coalitions, it would be transformative, not just reaching and involving more people, leveraging a greater contribution, but fundamentally changing the rules of the game." As the community benefit society is forming and consortia are becoming established practice, we celebrate and thank you for being part of the story, and look forward to you joining the shaping of the next steps as we forge new pathways with the people of Barking and Dagenham.